Hello and welcome to the official EstablishTheRun.com NFL betting show. My name is Adam Levitan. As always, joined by the king himself, the snow shoveler himself, Evan Silva, also joined by Mark Dankenbring, Mark from Cincinnati. We're down to the final four gentlemen of the NFL. Evan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm excited for this weekend. I feel like the games are, both of them could end up being lopsided, but I don't know. I mean, I think that KC is a clearly better team than Cincinnati, and the Rams are a clearly better team than San Francisco. But that's why they play the games. That's one of the things that makes the NFL fun is that crazy stuff can happen. So let's get to it.
Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's been a bit of a whirlwind day. I was in Phoenix the last few days, got to hang out with Mike Gallagher. Shout out Mike, one of the GOATs of fantasy NBA. And went out last night, had some delicious pizza, also a few brews. And in my stupor last night, set my alarm for the wrong time. So I ended up missing my flight out of Phoenix this morning.
Oh, my God.
Had to rebook, but I made it back in time. It's been a long day. Landed in Denver. It's snowing. You can only see a couple hundred yards out. Just one of those days where there's delays kind of in every aspect. But so I lost a couple $100 on the ticket change, but I'm here to make that back. So excited to get into the betting picks today.
I lost a high stakes tennis match yesterday morning, so I am also here trying to shovel out of a hole. All right. On today's show, we are going to talk through the betting board for the Final Four, make some 5,000 gold star can't lose lock of the week picks. By the way, before we get into it, if your season-long league is wrapped up, you're still itching for fantasy football, maybe you're itching for DFS or props on bigger slates, NBA is in full swing. DFS, props, bundle. We are running a sale, post-NFL sale right now. Head to the NBA subscribe page for more details there. All right, Evan, I will give you the board. The entire board is yours to examine. What do you have for the people?
All right, I'm going to stand by one of my picks that I wrote in my matchups column for Cincinnati against Kansas City, and that is the over on the Bengals team total at 23.5. Mm-hmm. So these teams met not but just a few weeks ago, and the Bengals put up 34 in a 34-31 upset of Kansas City. Now that game was in Cincinnati. But I mean, the Bengals offense is firing on all cylinders. The Bengals offense did give up 9 sacks to the Titans last week, but the Titans pass rush is superior to Kansas City's. Kansas City finished the regular season 30th in the NFL in sack rate, bottom 3 in sack rate, and bottom 11 in quarterback hit rate. Now that is a statistic that spans the entire season, but if you just isolate their last 6, the Chiefs' last 6, they've been giving up almost 26 points per game. And so that would bring us home a winner. And I think that Cincinnati is going to have to score here. I mean, I think that they're going to have to play aggressive offense throughout the game. I think that they have put their foot on the gas down the stretch. And I think that they have reaped the benefits of that. I know that Kansas City has, they play pretty good defense against wide receivers, but you have to play almost impeccable defense against these wide receivers. Tyrann Mathieu, I know, the Chiefs are making it sound like he's probably going to play, but he's got to pass through the concussion protocol. That's not a lock. That's something that we'll find out later in the week. But yeah, I think that the Bengals can get to 24 and perhaps above that in this game. I think that the Chiefs defense, although it played really well for about an 8-game stretch in the middle of the season to offset some of the problems that Kansas City's offense was having, Kansas City's defense has really come back to earth over the last month and a half. And I think that Cincinnati is running on all cylinders offensively.
Yeah. Bengals over 23.5 minus 105 on DraftKings right now. Didn't have a chance to shop that one before the show, but you can always search around for the best prices. Very, very important. Yeah. I mean, Kansas City's defense, who I thought was playing at a really high level, like Evan said, not too long ago. I mean, they've been shredded outside of just a couple games of late, as Evan alluded to. So, including that game against Joe Burrow. I mean, my God, Joe Burrow in that Week 17 game just went absolutely nuke for sure. All right, Mark, board is yours.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear, Evan's confidence in the Bengals offense. because I'm also going to take an over that coincides with this game. So it's actually a DraftKings special. If you click on the conference specials tab, it should pop up, and it's in this game. And it's Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes to combine for 600 plus passing yards. So we actually have about 610 projected between the two. Mahomes' line is just under 300 himself, and Joe Burrow's is right around 290. But we're slightly over on both. I just think the game environment sets up that both of these teams are going to throw a ton. We've seen Cincinnati, really up their pass rate over expectation the last few weeks of the regular season and into the postseason. They've had over 70% pass rate last week. And then, against the Raiders came out throwing as well and kind of iced the game in the second half a bit with the running game. But, Kansas City has been over 70% pass rate in their 2 postseason games, led the league in pass rate over expectation this season. So I just, expect these teams to throw a bunch. High scoring affair. The total's at 54.5. Both of these offenses move the ball the best through the air. So I like this. It's also plus 150, which I think is just great odds for this bet. Again, we have it already projected over this number. So I think getting at the plus 50, really makes it a good bet. And then it's also, since it's combined, we could easily see a game here, even if the Chiefs, run out to a big lead and are kind of icing the game in the second half. Burrow could potentially get to 340, 350, and then Mahomes would only need 250 on the other side. So I just like the combo here more so than isolating one passer to go over. And again, like the odds there as well.
Yeah. One thing that we've looked at, and we don't have the math behind it yet, is like we looked at a lot of these rushing yards or receiving yard props, but then you can also bet total yards. And like the distributions are way different when you can have 2 different ways to get there in a bet. In other words, like you would need to show a bigger under than you would normally for rush plus receiving because there's more ways for a player to get there. I think of this bet in kind of the same way. You have 2 players and there's multiple ways for them to get there, as Mark alluded to. Mahomes either in a shootout or Mahomes into a big lead and Burrow into catch-up mode. Plus 150 does certainly sound nice there when you factor in our projections, as Mark said.
I couldn't find under same game parlay Mark's exact bet, but I could find over 300 passing yards for Joe Burrow, over 23.5 Bengals team total points at plus 245. So,
Yes. The same game parlay streets are certainly hot right now. Okay. These guys are taking derivatives. These guys are taking conference specials. You know what a man takes? You know what an alpha takes? Game lines. Okay. Just straight against the spread. This is how we bet it in the 80s and the 70s. We're going to go ahead and take 49ers plus 3.5. We were on 49ers plus 6 last week. They got the outright. I was a little worried that Debo was banged up, that Kittle was banged up, that Trent Williams was banged up, that Jimmy G was banged up. They all seem fine, man. I mean, Trent isn't practicing, but it sounds like Trent's going to be fine. Debo and Kittle are practicing full. Jimmy G is practicing full. I mean, I think the Rams are better. I think the Rams have better talent. But there's something about this 49ers team. They come with a lot of swag. Did you see the dude with the beatbox, with the boombox coming out of the locker room, and Debo and Trent in front kind of swag walking? Debo's got the big chain. I mean, this is the kind of swag that you need to win an NFC championship game on the road. And I know that, like, I know that the Rams on paper are more talented. I know Jimmy G's been struggling badly. I just think that the 49ers, much like they did in Green Bay, can find a way. And the special teams play from the Rams won't be nearly as bad as special teams play was for the Packers. But still, I think you can find an edge there. There's no doubt. So 49ers plus 3.5 is the play for me. Evan, your second selection.
I don't really have a second one. Mark, you want to go ahead and I'll look for a prop.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I also like the 49ers plus 3.5. I like that one. I'm going to bet that one myself. Think they keep it close. But on this one, I'm going to go against my Cincinnati roots and choose the Chiefs -7 at home in Arrowhead. I think the Bengals, they've obviously had a pretty good run, but just kind of when you draw it up, this playoffs has broken perfectly for them. Get the Raiders in the first round, kind of get a lowly 1 seed in the Titans. And both things just bounced their way. Ryan Tannehill interceptions last week, like the Titans outgained them in yards per play. The Bengals got a little lucky with interceptions, had to settle for some field goals. And I think, in this game, like I watched the Bengals game with some Cincinnati friends last week, and they asked, who would the Bengals rather play, the Chiefs or the Bills? And I kind of laughed and I said, neither. And then that game unfolded and I felt the same way. I just think it's a step up in class. I don't expect the Bengals defense to limit, the Chiefs passing offense and just offense in general. I think the Chiefs are going to put up a bunch of points here, probably 40. So, if the Bengals don't score 30 plus, then I think the Chiefs are going to cover here. So I'm going to lay the points with Chiefs -7.
I don't know if you've heard, Mark, but the way the Bengals can win the game is just by playing cover 2. They'll just go out there, they'll practice their cover 2 all week, and then they'll beat Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you heard that.
I mean, Adam,
It's out there.
You got to let this go. You got to let it go. I mean, they're not hitting like big plays downfield. They're picking apart defenses underneath to defeat the cover 2, to work around the cover 2.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes is running a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, it's having an effect.
Yeah. Okay. So give Tyreek Hill 10 yards of cushion and then watch what happens. I mean,
right. No, it's ridiculous. The notion, and I still question it's how realistic it was, but the notion that Patrick Mahomes has been solved, that's ridiculous.
You know what? Chiefs Twitter got a hold of my tweet, and normally, we have such bad experiences with fan Twitter. Yeah. But Chiefs Twitter freaking loves me now.
Oh, nice.
Tweet. Yeah. Right. Man, they have been in there just talk. Oh, yeah,
that's
they're
awesome.
pumping me up big time. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to the game on Sunday.
Are you really?
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Wow.
All right. I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo under 230.5 passing yards, which I found on DK. I still think that Jimmy G is playing hurt. I know they pulled the shoulder injury off the injury report this week, but since he got hurt, falling awkwardly onto his shoulder and injuring it in an effort to try to protect his wrist or his finger or whatever. Since then, he is 14 of 30 passing, 47%. I mean, this is an offense that Nick Mullins was completing 65% of his passes in, and Jimmy Garoppolo can easily get up near 70%. He's at 47% now in a 6-game sample, 5.7 yards per pass attempt. And that's with Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle all at 100%. Trent Williams, it does sound like he's likelier than not to play, but he's dealing with an ankle injury and he's a movement offensive tackle. I mean, he doesn't just stand there. They get him on the move. That could take away a little bit from their offense. And then, I don't think Jimmy G can get there, right now. And I think they're going to continue to want to run another game with a ton of Debo handoffs. I mean, he's got 20 carries over the last 2. I think he could get 12 or 15 this time. Like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a lot of manufactured offense. Maybe, one of these run after catch studs breaks something big and screws me. But, straight up, I like this bet on paper.
After the Tyler Johnson debacle, Evan, I want you to be sure you're doing your line shopping. There is a 228.5 on FanDuel. There is a 225.5 on PointsBet. If you're going under, best line is indeed on DraftKings and Caesars 230.
There you go.
And a half. We have 245.3 here. We've been talking about this a little bit with the projections team. It's hard to bake in how hurt Jimmy Garoppolo is, right? We're using Jimmy Garoppolo's baselines for the whole season. And so it's hard to say, oh, he's hurt now. Let's ding that. So, 245 versus 230 is not a place I would ever bet an over. And of course, I'm leaning towards unders wherever I can on props. So yeah, there's obviously some soft stuff involved in these props as well. Speaking of soft stuff, for my last play today, I am going to go with something that Leone is actually forcing me to talk about on this show. He's been talking for 48 hours straight about Cam Akers overs. I finally allowed him to put in the Cam Akers over 57.5 rush yards as an official bet. But over on FanDuel, if you go there, they have alt rushing lines. And so the alt rushing line for Cam Akers opened over 80 yards plus 265. It's now down to over 80 yards plus 220. I still think there's some value in this because if we're right and Cam Akers is not punished for his fumble, he's going to get 20 carries in this game. Like, he had 24 out of 25 rush attempts among running backs last week, did Cam Akers. Now, I get it. He had 2 horrific fumbles. Sony could mix in more. I don't think Darrell Henderson's going to play much, even though he may be activated in this game. But man, if you can get 20 carries for Cam Akers, I get San Francisco's rush defense has been playing very, very well lately. I think Cam Akers and the Seventh line is talented enough for Cam Akers to get to 80. So it's a bet on game script. It's a bet that he won't be punished for the fumble. I get all that, but I still think that when you're getting plus 220 and better on this, it looks pretty good to get to 80 plus yards. Evan, I don't know if you've thought any more about Cam Akers versus Sony Michel in this game in terms of usage.
Well, I'll tell you what, I bet Leone just loved that alt line because, Leone is an alt socialist. So must have fucking been loving it. No, I mean, you kind of just sold me. I didn't like it when I first saw it, but I like it now. You sold me on it.
Yeah, I mean, my take on the Sony Michel versus Cam Akers thing is that, hey, Cam Akers had a bad game in terms of fumbles, period. But man, they have immediately decided that he's better than Sony Michel. I mean, to come off of an Achilles tear 6 months later, and then you just don't even give Sony Michel the ball at all, like that says to me that they think that Cam Akers is way better. And so I don't think that they're in a position to bench their best players in this game, and they seem to think that Cam Akers is their best player. All right. We've said it all for the Conference Championship Final Four betting show. We'll be back. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a couple of these. The Super Bowl props game and betting game is such a long run out. Maybe we'll do a couple of them. Lines are going to change a lot. More markets will open up in the second week. Maybe we'll do one in week 1, and then we'll also do one in week 2. We'll let you guys know about that. Friday, Evan and I will be with Wiggins to talk the 2-game slate from a DFS perspective. Meanwhile, a lot more time for NBA props. I've been kind of lurking and getting ready to blast back in on NBA props again. Check that out if you are interested. For Evan, for Mark, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.